So, but we're so very happy with the results, and I'm sure people are as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marcos again.
Thank you. Thanks to Tinaw, thanks to all that I can. Everyone who worked with me for this show and for the show. It's my favorite. Salamat po sa inyo. Salamat po. I'm Marcos again. That is visual artist for my 20 years. People are not pag-iwan so recently. Meron akong topic ko din. So, I'll be talking about my thoughts. Talking about what I thought about during the show. I'm asking light. There is something about light, especially when we gather around it, that reminds us of the kind of gathering that people have practiced for centuries and millennia. Our ancestors told and retold their stories around bonfires. They discussed important matters, solved their problems, shared jokes, and performed rituals around burning light. There are many myths and creation stories associated with light. It has been deemed sacred, has been considered as a symbol for the gods. Nowadays, we live in a world full of portable screens. We carry images which emit light. They provide us with information and connect us to the rest of the world. We have these wonderful gadgets that accompany us day and night. We have attained and developed our relationship with light. Tonight, we gather around it in this dark room. Light becomes the messenger of images. These things that we look at cannot be seen without the light coming from within. Along with the reflective surfaces inside all of these boxes, light also participates in the manufacturing of images. Manufactures replicas and replicas of replicas. We get to see so much more than what is actually there. So the apparent is not. And most of what we're looking at are extensions of a fragment, proxies, to accent members of familiar images like pillars, metal bars, arrows, ladders, tires, meteor showers, planets. The fact that these are reflections is laid bare. It's right there in front of us. It's not hidden. In a lot of ways, it is revealed. The presence of what is not there is nevertheless quite powerful. Mirrors cast back light. They are two-dimensional objects that carry three-dimensional images. The mirror goes beyond the limitations of its two-dimensional form. The character of this medium reminds me of a parable that physicists call the flat bag, when it talks about a two-dimensional person living in a two-dimensional world. For example, if we have a flat, rectangular room, and a man is living in this room and is also two-dimensional, he would not be able to see or perceive anything from the three-dimensional world. So, if we were to pass a ball inside or through the two-dimensional plane, the man inside will see it in two dimensions, not in three dimensions. First, you will see it as a dot, and then you will see a circle, a small circle, and a bigger circle, until it reaches the diameter of the ball, and then it will shrink again to a smaller circle, and it will disappear. So, the two-dimensional man will see it in slices, not as a whole. So what happens if we, from the two-dimensional world, if we pick up this two-dimensional person and add the dimension of height, because it's an anxious length and width. If we add a height, then that's another dimension for him. So it adds to his consciousness. And what will happen if he goes back to his 2D world and he says, and he tells his friends in family, oh, there's another dimension. So he will be considered as crazy. Plato, he wrote the allegory of the cave. It's a story about people who are chained inside the cave. All of them facing a wall, and all of them cannot see anything that's happening behind them. They all grew up that way and were conditioned to see only what was projected in the cave wall. Behind them, behind the chained figures, are puppeteers in front of a bonfire projecting shadow plays on the wall. So the people in chains see the shadows and perceive them as reality. They do not see the puppeteers. What will happen if one of them escapes and sees the puppeteers behind them? He comes out of the cave and realizes that there is a world out there more real than what we know. He realizes that the sounds they were hearing were only echoes of the voices of people outside the cave. And if he chooses to return and tell his friends and family that they were all prisoners in chains, what will they do? They will treat him as a crazy person, or they might even kill him. I think about this allegory along with the parable of the flat land. And then I look at the mirrors, these flat surfaces. Surfaces which reflect light. It goes beyond its own dimensions, its own limitations. And what will happen if you put two of them in front of each other? Two surfaces casting each other's reflections, and they will expand the image again and again, and they will create a pattern, a succession of images that suggests to us the idea of infinity. We are pattern-seeking creatures. It's a survival mechanism. It has taught us well in our journeys through life. Day turns into night, and night into day, and day into night again. We experience the seasons, divide the year into months and weeks and days. These are units of measurements which tell us how far we have traveled, not just in space, but also in time. Just like the stars, you've noticed we are born and we also die. That's another pattern. So this now brings me to Zeno. Zeno was a thinker a century before Aristotle. And he introduced a paradox about space and motion. He told us that motion is nothing but an illusion. And he gives us an instance about movement, wherein, for example, if this is point A, there's point B, and there's point C. If we're going from point A to point C, we have to pass by point B. That's the midpoint. And if we're going from point A to point B, and you can call this midpoint point AB, then you have to pass by that midpoint. And if you're going from point A to point AB, there's another midpoint. So how many midpoints do we have? We have an infinite number of midpoints. That's why he says that motion is an impossibility. It's only an illusion because you cannot cover infinity. So most of his paradoxes, there's a number of paradoxes, also dealt with the same theme. And in this particular paradox, he divides space into many points. But for the arrow paradox, we work with an arrow paradox and Zeno. He splits up time. He says that in a single instant of time, the arrow cannot go to where it is because it is already there. It also cannot go to where it's not because it is where it is in a given instance of time. So, in work though, my work there shows or attempts to represent the arrow in both ways. The arrow extends, but it also stays in place. It can go to where it's not, but it can also go to where it is. My field is my take on the idea of mimesis or mimicry or mimesis. According to Plato, it is the lowest form in his hierarchy of forms. Plato says that everything in the world is a poor copy or are poor imitations of something that is more perfect in this ideal world of forms. We recognize German Shepherds, Chihuahuas, Poodles as dogs because they are all poor versions of the perfect dog. And this we already know, according to Plato. But we have forgotten on the day we were born. And all that we've learned so far in our lives are mere recollections of the things that we already know. So we remember. He accused artists of simply copying the poor copies in the world. So it's like copying the poor copy. You don't go out among artists. So for this show, most of my work, or most of the work that you're seeing here, are copies. And copies of copies. But because these are position copies, a wooden box, like a wooden box can turn into a pillar. A 4-inch part of the arrow can become 5 feet. A 15 inches of space can be 40 to 50 feet in depth. Visually, at least. If we look closely, these repetitions can turn a wooden letter H as a ladder into a ladder. Position it horizontally, and this ladder will turn into a railroad. Curved strips of plywood can turn into a tunnel. It's, I think, about 5 inches. A few pieces of colored charcoal and become a miniature shower or even a big bath. Blue tacks sa collider can represent protons about to be fired and about to collide with each other. These works are highly representational. They are mimetic. And this experience of extensions and expansions is exclusive to our sense of sight. For all the other senses, this experience does not happen. So, something in the land. And this makes us ask questions about what we see as material reality. We are all made up of atoms, but we know now that atoms are 99.999% non-material. It's made mostly out of nothing. And we are made of this stuff. We are made up of atoms of nothing. So, all of what we see as matter is actually non-matter. How we retain our forms, our identities, our memories is quite a mystery. At the very basic or fundamental level, we do not really own much. We do not own our bodies because these subatomic particles go wherever they want. They can jump from one body to another. So Heraclitus was correct when he said more than 2,000 years ago that everything is in a constant state of flux, that we cannot step on the same river twice. Everything is one, but is continually changing. So how do we retain our form? The systems theorist Fritjof Capra said that our patterns of organization are the same. There is stability in the patterns, even though the building blocks are unstable. So apart from the patterns of organization, which is stable, Fritjof Capra says that we all have an inherent tendency to transcend, to reach out and create new forms. That the basic dynamics of evolution is not just adaptation, it is also creativity or creative adaptation. Every living organism has the potential for creativity, for surprising and transcending itself. He says that evolution is an ongoing dance, an ongoing conversation. Thank you. If you have questions.
Did you have any training in science in college?
Science. father is an engineer. He's a man of science. Pero it was in Sunday and maybe
It's like two different worlds, like art and science. You know, and very rare is it really meet in the art world and think consciously.
Yeah.
Except in the case of their city, I think.
Siguro yung it's because of the study perception and the realization that what we're seeing is all translation. So we look at things and we know that what we're seeing is inverted. Diba? It's inverted here and then the brain inverts again for us to make sense of it. So we're actually receiving information and we're translating it. And everything is translated. Even the sounds that we hear are translations. So if there's a sound coming from the outside, it enters our ears and there's this bone-like structure inside there's ears. It vibrates. So we hear the vibration from that. Pero we don't